I clearly like Apple, and we buy them to hold, and we bought about 5% of the company, and I'd love to own 100% of it. But that's the test. Would you like to own 100% of a company? If you're going to buy 5% of it, we're not buying a stock when we buy Apple in our minds. We're buying 5% of a business. We buy 100% of some businesses, and when they're publicly held, we buy 5%. But we bring the same thinking to it, and we like very much the economics of their activities, and we like very much the management and the way they think and the way they act.
Bitcoin is worthless artificial gold, which, if it succeeded, would facilitate a lot of illicit activity. Now, that is not something I think the world needs. And the fact that it's clever computer science doesn't mean that it should be widely used and that respectable people should encourage other people to speculate in it. Bitcoin reminds me of Oscar Wilde's definition of fox hunting, the pursuit of the uneatable by the unspeakable.
I think there's three things that are very separable. If Berkshire, finds a way to optimize its healthcare costs versus the entire U.S. healthcare system, and access versus cost are two different things. If you add access, unless you're very careful, like a universal coverage, it will actually drive up costs pretty dramatically.
And potentially lower standards or lower what access people get.
Right. So when Vermont costed out what universal care would cost, even the proponents were stunned at the cost. So we have to perform two miracles. We have to get better access in America and get the cost down.
We have a news alert on Tesla. Let's get to Leslie Picker with those details. Leslie?
Hey, Kelly, that's right. A new filing disclosing insider purchases by Chairman Elon Musk says that he's purchased 33,000 shares in about 2 days with a value of $9.8 million at an average purchase price of about $298.50. These were purchased through his trust, but of course, an additional vote of confidence from Chairman Musk. Back over to you.
Yeah, maybe he feels like he owes it to the shareholders at this point. Leslie, thank you.
So the shares anyway, obviously up in today's trade before that news hit, and recovered most of the losses from the earnings call already by the end of last week and this morning. So whether it's him propping it up or others, they've stepped in and regained those losses.
New York Attorney General Eric Schneiderman has resigned effective at the close of business today. The announcement came just hours after the New Yorker published allegations that Schneiderman was physically violent with 4 women he had dated. 2 women spoke on the record accusing him of repeatedly hitting them during the course of their relationships and never with their consent. Schneiderman said he strongly contests the allegations, but they prevent him from leading his office's work, and he would resign. The Manhattan District Attorney has opened an investigation into those allegations.
I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. In a few moments, I will sign a presidential memorandum to begin reinstating U.S. nuclear sanctions on the Iranian regime. We will be instituting the highest level of economic sanction. Any nation that helps Iran in its quest for nuclear weapons could also be strongly sanctioned by the United States. America will not be held hostage to nuclear blackmail. We will not allow American cities to be threatened with destruction, and we will not allow a regime that chants death to America to gain access to the most deadly weapons on earth. Today's action sends a critical message. The United States no longer makes empty threats. When I make promises, I keep them.
Welcome back to CNBC. I'm Michelle Caruso Cabrera at the Breaking News Desk. President Obama has just put out a 2-page statement in response to President Trump's statements earlier today, withdrawing from the Iran deal. It's a vigorous defense of the Iran deal, which, of course, he orchestrated under his administration. He says the deal is, quote, working, that the president's decision, quote, is misguided. Here's one quote we can give you. It's a lengthy statement. He says, at a time when we're all rooting for diplomacy with North Korea to succeed, walking away from the JCPOA JCPOA, that's the Iran deal, risks losing a deal that accomplishes with Iran the very outcome that we are pursuing with the North Koreans. Kelly and Wolf, not a surprise that President Obama would be unhappy with what happened today. Back to you.
Still, he put out a statement so quickly. Michelle, thank you very much. And by the way, our new fresh ambassador to Germany, Richard Grinnell, just tweeting that German companies doing business in Iran should wind down operations immediately.
Yeah, we've had joint statements as well from, the Prime Minister in the UK, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, French President Macron, all emphasizing their continued commitment to the deal. That statement for a coordinated joint one also coming out very quickly, as you suggested, President Obama, very, very much prepared and coordinated.
Yeah, and not even clear how that would work.
You have been a big bull on Bitcoin.
Yeah.
We had some folks that some people know on our show earlier this week. Becky was out in Omaha. I want to show you what they had to say if we could roll the tape on Bitcoin from Mr. Munger and Mr. Buffett.
The asset itself is creating nothing.
I think it's a scumball activity.
I would short it if there was an easy way to do it.
So there you have it. You have Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Charlie Munger. One of them was calling it a scumball activity. The other saying, Bill Gates saying he would short this thing if he could. And you're saying they're all wrong.
Yeah.
Explain.
Well, look, not everybody is right all the time. And I think we have to acknowledge that we all have biases. And look, I'm a disciple of Buffett and Munger. And one of the things that they have said for years, which I believe, is you define a circle of competence and you stay within it. And I think it's been clear in his entire investing career that technology is not in his circle of competence. And so the only technology name that he's owned is Apple. I mean, you could claim that IBM was a technology company. That's borderline.
It's out of that. That didn't work anyway.
Right.
And Apple, I was thinking that if he got in Bitcoin, if he eventually got in Bitcoin, when he eventually got into Apple, it'd already be at $1 million probably.
Probably.
AT&T confirming to CNBC that it paid President Trump's lawyer, Michael Cohen, for, in its words, insights into the Trump administration. AT&T didn't say how much money it paid Cohen, and the admission came after
about 200 grand.
Yeah, I don't know. After a lawyer. Oh, look at this. We're calling her porn actress. We downgraded her from porn star. Porn actress Stormy Daniels claimed that a company owned by Cohen received payments from AT&T, Novartis, and a Russian oligarch. The lawyers say that Cohen's company made payments to Stormy Daniels to stay quiet about an alleged affair with Donald Trump. AT&T says Cohen's company was one of several firms engaged to provide insight into understanding the new administration, and it was before he became quite so famous or infamous or whatever. And if you were AT&T and you're trying to do this deal and wondering, this is some simple vertical merger, what the hell is going on? You'd want insight into what is Trump really thinking? Is it about CNN? Right. What's really going on here?
It's interesting because there was, on the Twitterati were out in force last night saying the swamp is alive and well and everyone's trying to pay each other off. But I think Joe and I actually agree that I think, A, clearly, if there was a payoff involved, it didn't work.
What's the merger? Right.
And B,
that was Ben White's point.
B, I think that AT&T legitimately thought, geez Louise, this guy may be coming after me. I got to talk to some people who may know this guy.
Who know him well and know what he's thinking.
What's he thinking?
What's the merger? What's the value of the merger with Time Warner?
A lot more than 200,000.
200 grand. I mean, to figure out, is it really CNN? Is that really what's happening? Michael, you know this guy really well. That's
the question. That's what you're asking.
That's what I mean. I have no problem with. That's a business. Business is. It's not always. You want it transparent, but you shouldn't be surprised about some things that you do just to try to.
By the way, it's not like it mattered in the end.
I think you have to pay a lot more than $200,000.
To find out the truth, or
no, I'm saying
I don't know. It's just I mean, how many times
that price is competitive with Stormy.
How many times do you use? I'm glad they made. No, I'm glad they made Casablanca so that we have that. I'm shocked.
Gambling.
If we didn't have that, because you just can't feign shock all the time that this is the way things. Good or bad, whether certainly not surprising.
This is from Novartis, which is disclosing that it paid $1.2 million or $100,000 per month to Michael Cohen, President Trump's attorney, and his company, Mr. Cohen's company, Essential Consultants. Here's what Novartis is saying. In February of 2017, shortly after the election of President Trump, Novartis entered into a one-year agreement with Essential Consultants. With the recent change in administration, Novartis believed that Michael Cohen could advise the company as to how the Trump administration might approach certain health care policy matters. The agreement was for a term of 1 year and paid Essential Consultants $100,000 per month. But after the first meeting with Michael Cohen under this agreement, the contract, they realized that basically it wasn't going to work. But because the contract could only be terminated for cause, the payments continued. And as a result of that, Michael Cohen and his company Essential Consultants received a payment from Novartis of $1.2 million.
We want to head over to Washington right now, where President Trump made news early this morning.
I want to thank you all. It's very early in the morning. I think you probably broke the all-time in history television rating for 3 o'clock in the morning, that I would say. But I want to just congratulate. These are 3 great people, and congratulations.
Eamon Javers joins us right now with more on the return of 3 American detainees freed from North Korea this morning. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Andrew. It was a joyful and emotional scene at Joint Base Andrews just outside of Washington, D.C. this morning as the president welcomed home those 3 detainees that you just saw in your picture there. They were brought back to the United States on a Boeing C-40 with specific medical facilities, but we are told by officials that their condition medically was relatively good. They were able to climb the stairs and descend the stairs by themselves, but they would have had the facilities on board that aircraft to evaluate them and just make sure that they were doing okay. Here's what we know about the 3 men. The 3 are Tony Kim, who was an accountant and professor in his time in North Korea. He was imprisoned in April of 2017. Kim Hak-song, who did agricultural work on a volunteer basis, was imprisoned in May of 2017. And Kim Dong-chul, a businessman and pastor from the Virginia suburbs, was imprisoned in October of 2015. Here's what the president said on securing their release.
They are really 3 incredible people, and the fact that we were able to get them out so soon was really a tribute to a lot of things, including a certain process that's taking place right now. And that process is very important. So we will see what happens. We have a meeting scheduled in a very short period of time. You'll be hearing about it soon. We have the location set. And we will see if we can do something that people did not think was going to happen for many, many years.
And you saw the Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, just to the left of the President of the United States there. All of them involved in this diplomatic dance over when exactly a summit will take place between the United States and North Korea. The current betting is that Singapore might be the leading contender to be the location for that summit, and probably at the end of May or early June timeframe. But the President has said that he'll announce those details later this week. So in Washington, the release of these 3 detainees is seen as a linchpin to getting that summit off the ground. So it would seem that this would clear the way for the first high-level negotiations in a long time between the United States and North Korea.
The president tweeting that the anticipated meeting between Kim and myself, he says, will take place in Singapore on June 12th. We'll both try to make it a very special moment for world peace.
I want to bring you some headlines, though, that are just crossing now on AT&T. This coming from Reuters, which has obtained a memo relating to AT&T's hiring, as you remember, the news breaking earlier this week, of Michael Cohen, the president's personal attorney in 2017 and 2018. Here's what Reuters is reporting now, saying that AT&T's Randall Stevenson, says he takes responsibility for the failure in the vetting process with the Cohen hire. AT&T saying it hired several consultants to help understand how the Trump administration might approach a wide range of issues, including that Time Warner deal that the company has been so focused on. AT&T's head of external and legislative affairs, Bob Quinn, is retiring, according to this memo obtained by Reuters. And AT&T's hiring of Michael Cohen as a political consultant was a big mistake. That's what Randall Stevenson is saying in an employee memo.
Today, my administration is launching the most sweeping action in history to lower the price of prescription drugs for the American people. We've wanted to be doing this. We've been working on it right from day one. It's been a complicated process, but not too complicated. And today it's happening. We will have tougher negotiation, more competition, and much lower prices at the pharmacy counter. And it'll start to take effect very soon.
Let's begin with Apple. That stock getting ever closer to $1 trillion in market cap. Doc, this thing is recharged, and it doesn't seem to want to slow down, albeit a little blip today. Let's call it flat, but 189.
Yeah, Apple on fire, been on fire since those earnings, Judge. The same thing, believe it or not, in PayPal. And I'm not trying to switch on you, but I'm saying there's a couple stocks that have hardly had a downtick in the month of May. And Apple and Facebook are two of them that have just been kicking butt and taking names.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.